There is a specific kind of cold that has nothing to do with the weather. It's the kind that starts in your chest, right around the space where your heart used to beat before it was broken, and it radiates outward until your fingers are numb and you can't remember what it feels like to be warm. I felt it the morning the moving truck pulled into the driveway. We had built that house. Thomas and I. Every brick, every window frame, every single flower bed in the front yard was something we had chosen together during 34 years of marriage. When the doctors told us the tumor in his chest was too aggressive, he didn't cry. He just held my hand across the hospital bed and whispered, "I've spent my whole life making sure you be safe, Clara. I won't let them change that." I didn't understand what he meant by them until 48 hours after his funeral. The front door didn't even knock. It just clicked open, and the heavy, expensive scent of my daughter-in-law's perfume drifted into the hallway before she did. Vanessa. She was wearing a tailored black dress that looked more suited for a corporate boardroom than a house of mourning. Behind her came my son, Julian. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He looked at the floor, at the walls, at the ceiling, anywhere but at the face of the mother who had raised him. Vanessa didn't offer a hug. She didn't ask if I had eaten. She simply walked into the living room, unzipped a leather portfolio, and laid a stack of documents on the mahogany coffee table Thomas had built with his own hands. "Clara," Vanessa said, her voice smooth, level, and completely devoid of warmth. "We need to talk about the estate. The mortgage on this place is too high for a single woman on a fixed income, and Julian and I have already spoken to a realtor. We found a very lovely, managed care facility just 3 miles from our new subdivision. We've already taken the liberty of signing the intent to sell." I looked at Julian. My boy. The boy whose scraped knees I had bandaged, whose college tuition we had paid in cash so he would never know the burden of debt. "Julian." I breathed, my voice trembling. "You're selling your father's house? 2 days after we put him in the ground?" Julian swallowed hard, shifting his weight. "Mom. Vanessa is just thinking about the future. It's practical. Dad's gone. Keeping this place doesn't make financial sense anymore. We need to consolidate the assets before the probate fees eat everything up." "Practical," I repeated. The word tasted like ash. Vanessa smiled, a cold, calculated tilting of her lips. "We've already arranged for the movers to take the heavy furniture on Friday. You'll only need to pack your clothes and personal effects. We need the house staged by Monday." They thought I was weak. They thought the grief had hollowed me out so completely that I would simply nod, sign the papers, and let them will me away into a quiet corner where I could be forgotten. But they didn't know about the key. The night before Thomas died, when his breathing was shallow and the hospital room was dark, he had slipped a small, brass key into my palm. He told me to look inside the false bottom of the tool chest in the garage, the one he always kept locked. I stood up from the sofa. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked to the front door, opened it wide, and pointed toward the driveway. "Get out," I said. Vanessa's smile vanished. "Clara, don't be hysterical. You don't have the legal standing to." "Get out of my house," I said, my voice dropping an octave, carrying the full weight of a woman who had nothing left to lose. "Both of you. Before I call the sheriff." Julian looked panicked, tugging at Vanessa's sleeve, and eventually, they left, Vanessa muttering about how ungrateful I was. As soon as their car cleared the driveway, I walked out to the quiet, dusty garage. I unlocked the tool chest, lifted the heavy metal divider, and found a thick white envelope with my name written in Thomas's neat, steady handwriting. Inside was not just a will, but a complete financial and legal history that turned my world upside down. Thomas hadn't been blind. For 18 months, while he was secretly fighting his diagnosis, he had noticed money disappearing from the company's auxiliary accounts. He hired a private forensic accountant. What he discovered broke his heart. Julian and Vanessa had been systematically embezzling funds from the family business to pay off Vanessa's massive, hidden gambling debts and a failed luxury real estate venture. But Thomas didn't confront them. Instead, he quietly reorganized everything. The house, the business, and every single cent of the liquid assets had been placed into an irrevocable trust solely under my name, structured so that if Julian ever attempted to contest it or force a sale, he would be completely disinherited. The next morning, I didn't call Julian. I called our family attorney, Mr. Vance, and the local authorities. The confrontation happened in Mr. Vance's office the following Tuesday. Vanessa arrived looking triumphant, assuming I had brought the signed deed to the house. Instead, she was met by 2 detectives from the white-collar crimes unit. When Mr. Vance laid out the bank records, the forged signatures, and the shell company Vanessa had set up using Julian's credentials, the color completely drained from her face. She looked at Julian, expecting him to defend her, but Julian was staring at the legal documents in absolute horror. He hadn't known the full extent of what his wife had done. He had blindly trusted her, letting her steer him right over the edge of a cliff. "You embezzled from your own father while he was dying of cancer," I said, looking directly at my son. Julian fell to his knees right there on the office carpet, sobbing, reaching for the hem of my coat. "Mom, please. I didn't know about the shell companies. I swear, I just thought we were taking an early inheritance. Please don't do this to me." Vanessa was arrested in that room. Because the embezzlement crossed state lines, the charges were federal. She is currently serving a 9-year sentence in a maximum security facility, her expensive lifestyle replaced by a grey jumpsuit and a concrete cell. Julian lost everything. The legal fees from his own defense forced him to file for bankruptcy. He lives in a tiny, cramped studio apartment on the bad side of town, working 12-hour shifts as a low-level dispatcher just to pay off the restitution fines the court ordered him to pay back to my trust. I still live in the house. Every morning, I make a cup of coffee and sit by the window, looking out at the yard Thomas and I built together. Julian calls me every Sunday evening. He cries on the phone. He begs for forgiveness. He asks if he can come over just to sit on the porch. And every Sunday, I tell him the same thing. I tell him that I love him, because he is my son. But then I remind him of the cold morning he brought a moving truck to a house that was still warm with his father's ghost. I haven't let him past the front gate since.